are these people?
We got abuse from the FBI. Who would have thunk that they would abuse their power? To the tune of 280,000 times in a year, Colin. Just that many times. So
Just that
this,
many?
just that. So the Register, right? Jessica Lyons Hardcastle over there, said that FBI abused spy law, but only like 280,000 times in a year. Well, if it isn't the Leaning Tower of FISA again. So Monday, 22nd of May, the FBI misused controversial surveillance powers more than 278,000 times between 2020 and early 2021 to conduct warrantless searches on George Floyd protesters, January 6 rioters, quote unquote, and donors to a congressional campaign, according to a newly unclassified court opinion. On Friday, the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court made public a heavily redacted April 2022 opinion that details hundreds of thousands of violations of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, the legislative instrument that allows warrantless snooping. The feds were found to have abused the spy law in a persistent and widespread manner, according to the court, repeatedly failing to adequately justify the need to go through U.S. citizens' communication using a law aimed at foreigners. Right? This is this is like what they've done to Tar Reed specifically. Right? So, Section 702 is supposed to permit the federal government to spy on communications belonging to foreign individuals outside of America, theoretically to prevent criminal and terrorist acts. These communications can sweep up phone calls, texts, and emails with U.S. persons, however, and are stored in massive databases. The FBI, CIA, and NSA can search those communications without a warrant. In the doublespeak world of American intelligence, such information isn't technically stored. It's also considered so if it's actually used by analysts. And while foreign communications are fair game, the feds can search about 3 levels down in data, i.e., who the suspected talked to, who their contact spoke to, and the next line in the communication link. So think Kevin Bacon level of contacts, right? So, although the law is not supposed to be used to surveil American citizens, the government has historically used the data to monitor activists, journalists, and others without obtaining a warrant. These communications can then be used to prosecute people for crimes, and have been. The police power is set to expire at the end of the year unless Congress renews it.
Which they will.
Right. With this, I want people to keep an eye out for it. With this looming deadline, the now unclassified court document adds fuel to Section 702's opponents' arguments that the government routinely abuses these warrantless searches. These abuses have been going on for years, and despite recent changes in FBI practices, what changes? These systemic violations of Americans' privacy require congressional action. U.S. Senator Ron Wyden said in a statement, Section 702 is to be reauthorized. There must be statutory reforms to ensure that the checks and balances are in place to put an end to those abuses. But you're gonna authorize it first, though, huh? I'm just saying, you're gonna do that first, right? We'll fix it later. The court opinion details FBI queries run on thousands of individuals between 2020 and early 2021. This includes 133 people arrested during the George Floyd protests. Okay? And more than 19,000 donors to a congressional campaign. I wonder which ones those were. In the letter, the analyst who ran the query advised that the campaign was a target of foreign influence. Ooh. But NSD determined that only 8 identifiers used in the query had sufficient ties to foreign influence activities to comply with the querying standard. The opinion says, referring to the Justice Department's NSD, in other words, there wasn't a strong enough foreign link to fully justify the communication search. Right? For the Black Lives Matter protests, the division determined that the FBI queries were not reasonably likely to retrieve foreign intelligence information or evidence of a crime Again, an overreach of foreign surveillance powers. Additionally, significant violations of the querying standard occurred in search related to the January 6, 2021 breach of the U.S. Capitol, domestic drug and gang investigations, and domestic terrorism probes. According to the court, it said that more than 23,000 queries were run on people suspected of storming the Capitol. So yeah, they went after them too. Well, the FBI has said it has implemented several changes to prevent Section 702 abuse, including better query training and stricter approval requirements for some sensitive searches, like those involving American elected officials and journalists. Section 702 opponents argue that the spying on U.S. citizens won't stop unless Congress enacts FISA report. Even with the long history of FBI misuse of FISA 702, these latest revelations should set off alarm bells across Congress. Jake LaPourrique, deputy director of the Center for Democracy and Technology's Security and Surveillance Project, said in a statement, "The systemic misuse of this warrantless surveillance tool has made FISA 702 as toxic as COINTELPRO and the FBI abuses over the Huber years." He added, absent a full overhaul of Section 702 and related surveillance powers, Congress should not allow the law to be extended past this year. So, thoughts, Care Bear?
So that funding for the police,
Yep.
as people are saying, it's not to protect us. It's to protect them against us.
Yeah.
So it's just the you know, so but here's the thing, it's like the idea that for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has said we need to defund the FBI.
Yep.
You know, this is something like people like the Squad or any progressive in office should say, okay, yeah, we should call her bluff, because she doesn't mean it. You know, she's only saying that to kind of dunk on the Squad, who by principle should be anti all of this.
Yep.
But the thing is, for them, this affects them too. So they are going to go for it because that affects their livelihood and their protection. But they don't give a damn about our protection when the cops are beating us up. Again,
or when they're arresting us, or members of the Uhuru movement, or
doing direct action against them.
Yep.
So,
or you speak out against the president, or this gives them carte blanche, and we're gonna see if Congress decides to vote this back in or not. What do you think?
Of course they will.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, of course, claro. But anyway,